Chapter 46-46. Seeing that his daughter finally understood, Xiao Yanlong also breathed a sigh of relief. Today, his proposal was rejected. He already felt humiliated. If his daughter still insisted on being with Di Beichun, it would be really embarrassing. Fortunately, his daughter also understood this. What's more, Di Beichun would know sooner or later that Xiao Sou was definitely not comparable to a woman from the underworld. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were cultivating in the cultivation room, Lin Yi had already found Di Xiaofeng. When Di Xiaofeng opened the door and saw Lin Yi looking at him with a smile, his heart thumped. He immediately understood that he was probably betrayed. Otherwise, even if Lin Yi's ability to find people was very powerful, it was impossible to find him so quickly. "Big cousin, why do you retreat every time I come?" Lin Yi pouted and looked at Di Xiaofeng pitifully. "Are you deliberately avoiding me?" Di Xiaofeng smiled and waved his hand. "How can it be? It's just that I happen to have some insights recently, so I want to retreat." "Then you haven't gone into retreat yet, right?" Lin Yi blinked. "It just so happens that I'm here. You can accompany me." "I think you should also cultivate well. How strong is the competition now? Once you slack off, other cultivators will easily overtake you." Di Xiaofeng said seriously. "I'm not here to play this time. I'm just here to find grandfather and grandmother. Big cousin, it's rare for me to come here. You won't be unwilling to accompany me, right?" Lin Yi blinked and asked. Di Xiaofeng forced a smile. Of course not. I know that big cousin won't avoid me." Lin Yi smiled brightly. "By the way, the people from the Xiao family came just now. I think Xiao Sou fell in love with second cousin at first sight." As soon as these words came out, Di Xiaofeng was slightly stunned. "Xiao Sou fell in love with Beichun at first sight?" "Yeah," Lin Yi nodded. "According to my previous understanding, Xiao Sou has always been very arrogant, but her performance just now obviously shows that she is interested in second cousin. Unfortunately, the falling flower has feelings for the heartless brook. Second cousin only has second cousin-in-law in his heart. Xiao Sou has been famous all these years, and there are many outstanding men pursuing her. To think that she would see Beichun in a different light. It seemed that Beichun's charm was not to be underestimated. I remember that Beichun and Xiao Sou still have a marriage contract. This matter shouldn't have caused such a stir, right?" Di Xiaofeng frowned, and there was a hint of worry between his brows. "It would be troublesome if more problems arose from this matter." "Then I don't know," Lin Yi said slowly. "If there's something, Uncle should say it, right? Let's see how it goes later." Emperor Xiaofeng said thoughtfully. "By the way, Yi, why did you come to look for grandfather and the others?" "It's for the Immortal Cloud secret realm that opens once every 10 years. Now it's not far from the opening of the Immortal Cloud secret realm. On the one hand, the family has to fight for the quota. On the other hand, they should also choose their disciples to participate. I came here this time to see second cousin-in-law, and aunt. On the other hand, I'm looking for grandfather to go back and preside over the overall situation." Chapter 46-47. The next day, when Di Yujue talked to Xiao Yanlong again, he felt that the other party's attitude was less enthusiastic and had become much colder. Feeling this, Di Yujue felt a little helpless. This situation was also within his expectations. After all, Xiao Sou was currently the most popular young person in the Xiao family, and was also Xiao Yanlong's treasure. The other party wanted to be with Beichun, but was rejected by him. It was normal for him to be unhappy. "Head of the Di family, I'm here today to bid farewell to you. The once-in-a-decade Immortal Cloud secret territory is about to open, and I need to go back to take care of it. I won't disturb you any longer." Seeing that Xiao Yanlong had even changed the way he addressed him, Di Yujue sighed. Facing the other party's attitude, he was also helpless. He could only hope that Xiao Yanlong would be able to cool down after a while. Originally, he had planned to discuss the Immortal Cloud secret territory with the other party. However, from the other party's attitude, he could tell that he did not want to talk to him anymore. As for discussing, there was no need to talk about it. When he thought of this, Di Yujue didn't say anything else. He only said a few words to persuade him to stay. Seeing that the other party had already made up his mind, he did not say anything more. After knowing the situation, Di Linxian also sighed, "Forget it. This situation is also within our expectations. Although Xiao Yanlong is unhappy now, he might be fine after a while. When the time comes, we can send some gifts over. It shouldn't have too much of an impact." I had already guessed that this matter would be a little troublesome. I thought that it was good that Xiao Sou did not like Beichen. It saved us a lot of trouble. I didn't expect that she would like Beichun. It's really surprising. Xiao Wanrong could not help but sigh. Her precious grandson's charm was really unstoppable. In my opinion, head of the Xiao family's attitude is only a little colder. However, he did not fall out because of this. This proves that there is still room for negotiation. Don't worry too much. Di Yujun nodded slightly. Actually, I'm not worried about this matter. I'm just worried about the inheritance. The Xiao family is currently dissatisfied with us. If the Jun family were to take advantage of this, it would be very disadvantageous for us. This was what he was most worried about. The Jun family had been eyeing the Di family covetously all these years. Moreover, he felt that the Jun family had something to do with the assassination of Beichen and Xiaofeng. Therefore, he felt that the Jun family had been brewing a big conspiracy for all these years. Although he hadn't found any evidence yet, his premonition was getting stronger. Now that there was a rift between the Di family and the Xiao family, with the Jun family's personality, they would definitely try their best to take advantage of it. Hearing Di Yujue's words, everyone's expression turned grave. The Jun family's development in recent years is indeed not to be underestimated. We do have to be on our guard. Di Linxian's gaze was deep. He had been observing the changes in the Jun family over the years. In fact, the Jun family had been eyeing them covetously for a long time. However, they had been limited by their strength, so they had been holding back. In recent years, they had become more and more arrogant. They had to be on their guard. This time, in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, we have to do our best. We can't lose to the Jun family. Di Yujue said in a deep voice. Chapter 46-48. Following Yun Yishan's words, Di Yujue and Di Linxian's expressions turned ugly. Alchemist Qin, who they recruited, was originally our guest. Alchemist Qin had already agreed to our conditions. Who would have thought that the Jun family would take advantage of the time when we were looking for Beichun to make Alchemist Qin agree to help them participate in the alchemy competition? Di Yujue's expression was ugly, and his pitch-black eyes were filled with haze. The Immortal Cloud secret territory, which opened once every 10 years, was a very good opportunity for the younger generation. If they could obtain some treasures and opportunities inside, it was very possible for them to improve greatly. Therefore, the competition for the slots was very intense every time. As an aristocratic family of the upper realm, they had a fixed number of 5 slots. Apart from that, the other slots had to be obtained through competitions. Although the Di family had alchemists, there were not many of them who were of a high grade. They only had 2 7th-grade alchemists. The slots for the Immortal Cloud secret territory were very important. Every time it opened, many forces would fight for it. Therefore, they were sure that there would be 8th-grade alchemists and even 9th-grade alchemists participating. 9th-grade alchemists were very rare. According to their judgment, as long as they could invite an 8th-grade alchemist, they were confident that they would be able to obtain a good ranking and obtain a certain number of slots. Originally, they had invited Alchemist Qin and the 2 7th-grade alchemists of the family. It was already set in stone that they would obtain a certain number of slots. They did not expect such a change to occur. The most despicable thing was that if Alchemist Qin had said that he would not help them earlier, they would have had time to invite other alchemists. However, Alchemist Qin had waited until shortly before the opening of the Immortal Cloud secret territory to suddenly tell them, catching them off guard. He did not need to think to know that this was a scheme of the Jun family. They had definitely discussed this with Alchemist Qin in order to trick them. In fact, the other party's scheme had indeed succeeded. Although he had tried to contact a few alchemists these days, everyone had basically already made an appointment. They could not find anyone at all. In that case, things are indeed troublesome. Lin Wenlan frowned. My Lin family has invited an 8th-grade alchemist, but he has just become one not long ago. I'm afraid that he can't compare to other alchemists of the same grade who have already become one. If we can obtain a slot, we will give some to you. We'll see when the time comes. You also need a slot. D. Lin Xian sighed. Although a newly promoted 8th grade alchemist had a high chance of obtaining a slot, it was still very difficult to obtain a large number of slots. The Lin family had a large number of their younger generation had a large number of slots was needed. Originally, when clan head Xiao came, he wanted to discuss with them whether or not they could use something to exchange for a spot. After all, their clan already has an 8th grade alchemist. But now it's no use. Lin S. Xiao Wanrong felt that it was a pity. In the current situation, they really could not think of any solution. They were really helpless. Seeing that, they all felt helpless in their hearts. There was truly nothing they could do. Chapter 46-49. Hearing Di Lin Xian's words, everyone fell into silence. It was obvious that Di Lin Xian was prepared for the worst. In fact, at this point, there was really no other way. Lin Wenlan was also helpless. He wanted to help Di Lin Xian, but he was afraid that he didn't have the strength to do so. Right now, he could only wait for the alchemy competition to see how things go. If his new alchemist could get a good result and get a quota, then he would give some to the D family. However, he wasn't too optimistic about this situation. If there were only 5 quotas, then they could only follow Di Lin Xian's method of distribution. If there were too few quotas, it would be difficult to get a better harvest. These 2 days, Bailey Hongzhuang clearly felt that the situation in the family was a little strange because she could vaguely see some people whispering, but she couldn't hear what they were talking about. Master, these people's expressions have been strange recently. Did something happen? Why don't you say anything when you get close? Xiao He was confused. She also felt that the situation was a little strange recently. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I think it might have something to do with me. If not, these people wouldn't have stopped talking when they saw her. But Master, you haven't done anything recently. Xiao He didn't understand. Master's life was very normal, every day. Nothing happened at all. Hongzhuang, what are you doing here? Di Xiaofeng happened to be heading to Lin Yinqing's residence and saw Bailey Hongzhuang standing outside. He couldn't help but ask. Seeing Di Xiaofeng, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up and she immediately asked, Big brother, what happened in the family recently? Where did this question come from? Di Xiaofeng was slightly startled. A trace of complexity flashed through the depths of his eyes. I noticed that everyone's expression has been a little strange recently. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng waved his hand. It's nothing, you don't have to worry about it. Bailey Hongzhuang asked a few more questions, but Di Xiaofeng still told her with certainty that nothing happened. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that she wouldn't be able to get anything out of Di Xiaofeng, but the other party's attitude made her even more certain that something must have happened, and it was related to her. Although she understood that Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng didn't tell her about this matter for her own good, she still wanted to figure it out. After all, she couldn't let others bear the pressure for her. She couldn't live so selfishly. Xiao He, why don't you help me find out? Bailey Hongzhuang carried Xiao He in her arms. The fluffy white ball felt great to the touch. No problem. Xiao He nodded. I promised to complete the mission. In fact, it was also very curious about what had happened. Even if its master did not allow it to go, it wanted to eavesdrop by itself. Go. Be careful not to be discovered by others. Don't worry. Just as Xiao He was about to leave, Bailey Hongzhuang unexpectedly discovered Daiheoan not far away. Daiheoan also didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be here. He was slightly startled, and a trace of panic appeared on his face. Then, he revealed a polite smile. Hongzhuang, you're here too. Chapter 4650. Daiheoan smiled and waved his hand. I'm already used to it. Besides, it's for the family. No matter how hard it is, it's worth it. It's hard for you to take care of Madam every day. Fortunately, you're back. Madam is now fully recovered. It's really delightful. By the way, did something happen in the family recently? I heard that the Xiao family's people came, but they left quickly. What's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang asked aloud. Don't you know? Daiheoan asked subconsciously. However, after saying it, he realized that it was inappropriate and immediately closed his mouth. Actually, it's nothing. It's just a small matter. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. Daiheoan's expression had revealed a lot of information. Could it be that the Shao family's departure had something to do with her? But she didn't even see the Shao family. How could it be related to her? How on, just tell me. Recently, everyone seems to be talking about this. I'm the only one who's kept in the dark. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Di Beichun was in seclusion, trying to break through these 2 days. She didn't know when he would come out, so she couldn't ask. Hongzhuang, I think you should ask Beichun about this. Daiheoan said awkwardly. Are you going to tell me or not? At this moment, a cold female voice sounded. It was filled with an undeniable tone. Suddenly hearing this voice, Daiheoan couldn't help but be stunned. After seeing the figure that appeared behind Bailey Hongzhuang, his expression changed. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Ling behind her. Then, she and Xiao He looked at each other. Their trump card was out. Sure enough, Daiheoan, who was originally very determined, wasn't so determined after seeing Ling. If you don't want to tell me, then forget it. Ling coldly glanced at Daiheoan. She crossed her arms in front of her chest with a cold and arrogant expression. She immediately turned around and prepared to leave. Seeing this, Daiheoan hurriedly said, Miss Ling, wait, I'll speak. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. As expected, Ling was the only one who could deal with Daiheoan. Ling only said one sentence, and the other party immediately surrendered. What happened last time was my fault. I'm really sorry. I hope you can forgive me, Daiheoan said sincerely. However, Ling was not willing to pay any attention to him. She only said, Are you going to tell me or not? I'll talk, Daiheoan hurriedly said, as if he was afraid that Ling would lose her patience and leave directly. Actually, the Xiao family is here for the engagement between Miss Xiao and Beichun. Engagement? Bailey Hongzhuang, Ling and Xiao He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. They never knew that Di Beichun had an engagement. Daiheoan nodded slightly. That's right. There was an engagement before, but Beichun went missing, so this matter was left unsettled. Now that Beichun is back, the Xiao family is here to discuss this matter. However, you don't have to worry. Master and Beichun have already rejected it, so this engagement is now invalid. Ling who was originally worried about Bailey Hongzhuang, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief after hearing that the engagement was invalid. That's good. Then we don't have to worry anymore. Chapter 46-51. Since this matter has been resolved, why is everyone still whispering about it? Xiao He looked puzzled. Since the engagement had been annulled, it should have come to an end. Is there a conflict between the Di family and the Xiao family because of this? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. After knowing that Beichun had an engagement, she was a little worried. However, she did not expect her father to reject it so easily. While she was surprised, she was also a little touched. Ever since she came to the Di family, she realized that whether it was her grandfather, grandmother, father, or mother, they had always treated her as one of their own. They did not feel that she was an outsider at all. All of her previous worries disappeared when she felt their passion and sincerity. Now, she had completely integrated into this family. However, she was still a girl from the lower realm. Her status could not be compared to the eldest daughter of the Xiao family. Furthermore, she knew that the eldest daughter of the Xiao family was about to become the holy maiden of the light world. However, even with such a difference in status, they still rejected her without hesitation. How could she not be touched? However, she also understood that the Xiao family would not be happy after being rejected. She was afraid that it would cause trouble for them. After such a thing happened, it's inevitable that there will be some estrangement. Daiheoan was a little helpless. However, it's not a big deal. I heard that although there is some estrangement between the two sides, it's not too bad because of this matter. As long as we find a way to give the Xiao family a way out, there won't be any problems. Is what you said true? Ling asked. Daiheoan nodded. Of course it's true. You can rest assured. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. As long as the two sides did not completely fall out, there was still room for negotiation. Could it be that these people have been talking about this recently? Is there anything else? Actually, the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, which is held once every 10 years, is about to open, so everyone is mainly talking about this. Originally, the head of the family wanted to use cultivation resources to exchange for a few places from a Shao family. However, there are some problems with the Shao family now, so it's very difficult to exchange for places. Actually, recently, everyone has been discussing who to send for these quotas. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. She didn't expect that the D family's interests would be affected because of her. After Daiheoan left, Bailey Hongzhuang's mood was somewhat depressed. Although she did not know what the Immortal Cloud's secret realm was, she knew that it must be a very important place, since even the D family placed so much importance on it. Now that something like this had happened at such a critical juncture, her father and the others must be worried about this matter, but there was nothing she could do. Master, this matter actually has nothing to do with you. You don't have to take it to heart. Xiaohei could not help but console her. That's right. This is something that can't be avoided. The D family must have thought about this beforehand. They must have been prepared to accept this outcome, Linger said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I understand, but I'm still a little worried. The next day, Di Beichen successfully broke through and came out of seclusion. However, as soon as he came out of seclusion, Di Xiaofeng appeared in front of them. Chapter 4652. Father wants us to make a trip to the meeting hall. Hongzhuang will go with us as well. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and immediately walked toward the meeting hall together. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two arrived at the meeting hall, they realized that Daiheoan and Di Zhuai's were already waiting for them. When Di Yujue saw that the three of them had arrived, a smile immediately appeared on his face. All right, since everyone is here, I'll explain the current situation. Hearing Di Yujue's words, Di Zhuai's and Daiheoan's faces lit up with excitement. In fact, when they were called here by the clan head, they already had a premonition in their hearts that they would be told something. All of you should know that the Immortal Cloud's secret realm that opens once every 10 years is about to open. The five of them nodded their heads. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen did not know what the Immortal Cloud's secret realm was, they had heard this name a few times recently. The Immortal Cloud's secret realm is a secret realm that was discovered by the Upper Realm many years ago. The Yuanli in this secret realm is extremely dense, and the spiritual herbs grow extremely well inside. Once it opens once every 10 years, there will definitely be a lot of spiritual herbs inside. Furthermore, these spiritual herbs will be of great help to cultivators. Not only that, there might also be other natural treasures and even inheritances. However, this secret realm also has a requirement of one's strength. Only cultivators who are at the nebula stage and below can enter. Because of this, the Immortal Cloud's secret realm has always been a place for the younger generation to train. As Di Yujue explained, his gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. In fact, Di Zhuai's and the rest were extremely familiar with the situation of the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. Only Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen did not know much about it. Hence, this introduction was specially made for them. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood the importance of the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. After cultivating to such a level, it was actually not easy to improve, especially when breaking through to the next level. At this time, medicinal pills could play a very good role. If there were no pills during the breakthrough, it would probably take a lot more time. However, spiritual herbs of such a grade were extremely rare and valuable. If there were many high-grade spiritual herbs in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, it would be a huge treasure. The quota for entering the Immortal Cloud's secret realm is limited. Every time the secret realm opens the big families. I intend to give you the remaining 5 slots to enter the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. I hope that you will be able to reap good rewards. Thank you, Clan Head. However, you must be careful after you enter. The young geniuses of the various powers will enter, and the competition will definitely not be small. Not only that, there are no rules here, so you must protect yourself well. Do not lose your life, Diujue said solemnly. He felt a little helpless. If there were more disciples participating, it would be safer. However, the chances of them obtaining a quota this time was too slim. Each family only has 5 quotas. Is it the same for the other forces? Bewitching could not help but ask. He understood that for such an opportunity, the quota would be very tight. However, for a force like the D family to only have 5 quotas, it was not a lot. Hearing Bewitching's words, Diju's eyes looked at him speechlessly. If the clan head was not here, he would have rolled his eyes. Chapter 46-53. Other than Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone else felt helpless when they heard Bewitching's question. Daiheoan and Bewitching both understood that the family head doted on Bewitching a lot and had never mentioned the losses caused by this matter to him. Hence, they naturally would not bring this matter up. Actually, every time the Immortal Cloud's secret territory opens, we have to fight for the slots. Diujue slowly said. He did not want to give Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang any psychological burden, but he could not keep them in the dark either. After all, they were already part of the D family and would find out about this matter sooner or later. Furthermore, Bewitching would take over the family in the future. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's eyes lit up. Actually, they also hoped that they would be able to obtain a few more slots. Xiren and the rest were all here, and if possible, they naturally hoped that when Xiren and the rest could also participate in the Immortal Cloud secret territory. However, the precondition was that the D family would be able to obtain enough slots. The D family was a big family and had many young cultivators. 5 slots were really too few. I wonder how the slots are fought for, Bewitching asked. With our family strength, we should be able to obtain a few more slots, right? As soon as Bewitching finished speaking, Diju's eyes felt even more speechless. The person who started all of this was actually standing here and was completely unaware of everything. He was even hoping to obtain more slots. It was really frustrating. Originally, our family could have obtained a few more slots. However, something unexpected happened along the way, and the possibility of obtaining more slots is very small. According to my judgment, I'm afraid that our family only has 5 slots this time. Diujue sighed. Even though he had accepted this fact, he still felt helpless every time he mentioned it. This time, I'm afraid that we'll fall behind the other families. 5 spots are really too few. We can only blame the Jun family for deliberately backstabbing us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with anger. If it weren't for the Jun family's interference, his family would have had many more spots. This kind of opportunity was something that the younger generation yearned for even in their dreams. Previously, the young disciples of the family who met the requirements had been looking forward to it. They never thought that there would be so few spots this time. One could imagine the depression in their hearts. It was precisely because of this that because of the depression in everyone's heart, they vaguely blamed Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang. Although this idea was wrong, it was inevitable under such circumstances. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame the Jun family. This family always likes to do these shady things behind the scenes. If he had enough strength, he would definitely teach the Jun family a lesson. The Jun family's actions are really too much. I think that we don't need to pay attention to them. We should just directly fall out with them. Diju's eyes were also filled with anger. The Jun family's actions had seriously affected the family's interests. If it weren't for this matter, the D family would have been able to obtain a good harvest in the Immortal Cloud secret territory. However, there were only 5 of them now. The limitations were obvious. Big brother, what's going on? Chapter 46-54. Actually, the competition for the spots to enter the Immortal Cloud secret territory is conducted through the alchemy competition. Originally, we invited an 8th grade alchemist. With this alchemist representing the family, our chances of getting a spot are very high. Although there will be ninth-grade alchemists participating in the alchemy competition, they are extremely rare. Other than the Alchemist Guild, there are very few forces that can invite a ninth-grade alchemist. Therefore, as long as we can find an 8th-grade alchemist with outstanding alchemy skills, getting a spot would not be a problem. However, we did not expect the June family to secretly bribe Alchemist Chin and change their mind at the last moment, catching us off guard. Now, it is too late to find other alchemists. Although our 7th-grade alchemist might be able to get a spot in the competition for 7th-grade alchemists is extremely fierce. It is hard to say whether they will be able to get a spot. Compared to 8th-grade alchemists, the number of 7th-grade alchemists was much higher. Although the 7th-grade alchemists in the family usually refined good pills, it would be difficult for them to get an outstanding result in the alchemy competition where geniuses gathered. Alchemy competition. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. She did not expect that the competition for the spots would be through the alchemy competition. The competition for the spots is conducted through the alchemy competition. Bewitching was also very surprised. He originally thought that the competition for the spots would be through the martial competition. He did not expect it to be through this method. In fact, the competition for the spots in the past was through the martial competition. However, everyone found that the martial competition would cause many geniuses to fall. The loss was not small, so it was changed to the alchemy competition. After all, the grade of the alchemist also reflected the family's ability. That's right. What's so strange about this? Seeing Di Beiqin and Bailey Hongzhuang's surprised expression, Dai Heoan could not help but say, no matter what method it is useless at this time. Di Beiqin did not pay attention to his father's words. Instead, he looked at Di Yujue and said, Father, Hongzhuang can also participate in the alchemy competition. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. They looked at Di Beiqin in confusion. For a moment, they did not react. Hongzhuang is an alchemist. Di Yujue immediately reacted. However, he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be an alchemist. With Bailey Hongzhuang's age, being able to have such attainments in medical skills was already very amazing. But now she even had the identity of an alchemist? Yes. Di Beiqin nodded. Hongzhuang is also a 7th-grade alchemist. For a time, everyone's eyes were focused on Bailey Hongzhuang. An alchemist. This is his alchemist. If Bailey Hongzhuang was only good at this, they wouldn't be unable to accept it. But Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were even more outstanding than Dr. Wu's, and her cultivation wasn't weak either. How did she cultivate to reach such a realm? Everyone was a little dumbfounded. Just one of the identities was already very amazing. After connecting all the dots, they almost could not believe it was true. Alchemist. Di Yujue could not help but ask in astonishment. Chapter 4655. Ever since she found out that the Shao clan and the clan were at odds because of her, she wanted to do something to make up for the clan's loss. Originally, the clan wanted to exchange for a few spots from the Shao clan, but they didn't expect it to go down the drain. If she could help the clan get a few spots, it would be great. After receiving Bailey Hongzhuang's confirmation, everyone was even more amazed. Hongzhuang, I didn't expect you to not only be a doctor, but also an alchemist. This kind of strength is really amazing. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with shock. He always thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was very outstanding, but he didn't expect her to be so outstanding. Di Zhai's and Dai Heoan's thoughts were even more complicated. When they found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was from the lower realm, they felt that she wasn't worthy of Di Beiqin's identity. But now that Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was revealed one after another, they only felt that this kind of talent was too terrifying. A cultivator from the lower realm actually had so many terrifying identities. Even if it was a disciple of an aristocratic family like them, it would still be extremely amazing. With Bailey Hongzhuang's age, to be able to reach such a level, her talent could be said to be at the peak of perfection. One had to know that their clan also had 2 Tier 7 alchemists, but these alchemists were not young. In comparison, Bailey Hongzhuang's potential was much greater, and it was very likely that she would become a Tier 9 alchemist in the future. When they thought of this possibility, The amazement in their hearts became even stronger. Hongzhuang, to be able to become a Tier 7 alchemist, your ability and talent are indeed amazing. Dujue stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, he was more and more satisfied with this daughter-in-law of his and understood what she wanted to do for the clan, but with your talent, as long as you concentrate on alchemy, you will definitely be able to become a Tier 9 alchemist in the future. The scale of the alchemy competition this time is extremely large. Almost all the outstanding alchemists from the upper echelons have been attracted, so it can be said that it is very difficult to obtain a ranking. According to our judgment, the possibility of a Tier 7 alchemist obtaining a spot is not high. He didn't want to strike Bailey Hongzhuang's enthusiasm and self-confidence because of this matter. In fact, according to age, there were extremely few alchemists who could compare to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally understood the meaning of Yujue's words. The reason why he said it so tactfully was to let her understand that there was still a certain gap between a level 7 alchemist and that only a level 8 alchemist could obtain a certain quota. Father, although I'm only a 7th grade alchemist now, my alchemy skills have been progressing well recently. I believe that I'll be able to break through to 8th grade alchemist in a few days. Her ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a resolute light. Recently, her cultivation had been increasing very quickly. According to her judgment, she should be able to concoct 8th tier pills. However, recently, she had spent more time on cultivation and less time on alchemy. Moreover, she didn't have many 8th tier spiritual herbs on hand, so she didn't try to concoct any. Now that she knew about this matter, she planned to take some 8th tier spiritual herb from the clan to concoct. She believed that with her current ability, she should be able to become a Tier 8 alchemist. Chapter 4656. When Di Beichun said that Bailey Hongzhuang was a 7th tier alchemist, everyone's heart was already in turmoil. However, the shock brought by Bailey Hongzhuang's words was no less than the previous shock. An 8th tier alchemist, even in the upper realm, was a very rare existence. The 2 alchemists in the family had been in the 7th tier for a long time, but no matter how hard they tried, they still couldn't reach the 8th tier. Bailey Hongzhuang being able to reach the 7th tier at such a young age was already very shocking, but now she said that she only needed a few days to break through to the 8th tier. Wasn't this too much of a fantasy? This kind of improvement wasn't something that could be done casually. If it was really that easy, then there wouldn't be so many alchemists stagnant in their alchemy skills. After Dujue heard this, he didn't know how to respond. He felt that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't someone who was in a rush to show off, but these words were too unconvincing. Not only Dujue, but the others also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously. It wasn't that they thought she was lying, but this kind of news was too shocking. Father, we can lead 3 alchemists to participate in the alchemy competition. Right now, the family only has 2 alchemists, so we can give the last spot to Hongzhuang. Di Xiaofeng suggested. That's not bad. First Art nodded. Since there was still 1 spot, they couldn't find another alchemist in a short time. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't get a good result, it was still good to go there and see. Looking at the alchemy methods of high-level alchemists could also give him some inspiration and improve his alchemy skills. He felt that this was a very good opportunity for Bailey Hongzhuang. As for Bailey Hongzhuang saying that she could become an 8th tier alchemist in a few days, he didn't take it to heart. He only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to participate in the alchemy competition, so she found such a reason. Hongzhuang's spot will be given to you. In a few days, you will leave for the alchemy competition. At that time, you can go together. Thank you, Father. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a happy expression. Di Beichun and Di Xiaofeng also smiled, but Di Beichun was happy that Bailey Hongzhuang could participate in the alchemy competition and get a spot. Di Xiaofeng felt happy that he helped Bailey Hongzhuang gain experience. As for Dai Heoan and Di Zhuai's, the 2 remained silent. Di Zhuai's was very speechless. The patriarch obviously doted on Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang. He was actually willing to let Bailey Hongzhuang cause trouble. Although wasting a spot in the competition wasn't a big deal, they didn't need it anyway. But if Bailey Hongzhuang went, it would be a bit troublesome. If her performance was too bad, the entire D family's face would be lost. He really didn't understand. The patriarch had always been very wise. How did he become like this now? Di Yujue said a few more words before letting the five of them leave. Not long after they left the hall, Di's eyes couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and say, "The alchemy competition is a place where heroes gather. You can't mess around." Chapter 46-57. When Di's eyes found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was a 7th-tier alchemist, he felt some respect for her. Even though he looked down on Bailey Hongzhuang's status, to have such achievements at such a young age was already very impressive. However, in an event like the alchemy competition, Bailey Hongzhuang only wanted to show off her abilities. When the time comes, not only would she lose face, everyone would lose face as well. Following Di Zhuai's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. From the first time they met Di Zhuai's, he didn't leave a good impression on them. Now, he was speaking even more rudely. "You don't have to worry about that." Di Beichen stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, his handsome face filled with coldness. "Beichen, I know that you're very protective of your wife. I also know that you've only just returned and everyone in the family is very good to you. But you can't use your status to do something that will damage the family's reputation." Di Zhuai's didn't back down at all. He didn't think that Di Beichen could be the next patriarch of the Di family. "No matter what, that's my business. You should be clear about your current position. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can directly voice it out in the discussion hall. If you don't have the guts, then don't waste your breath here." His cold voice carried a tone that didn't allow for refusal. Di Beichen's eyes were sharp and dazzling as a tyrannical aura emanated from him. Even though he had only just returned to the Di family, he was still the son of the patriarch. He was even the next patriarch of the Di family. The other party was only the son of an elder, yet he dared to teach Hongzhuang a lesson in front of him. This was simply intolerable. Hearing Di Beichen's sharp and merciless words, Di Zhuai's face turned ashen. He stared at the man in front of him who was even younger than him. He was shocked to find that he was intimidated by the other party's aura. At this time, Di Xiaofeng also spoke out, "Zhuai's, you should really think about it. Facing Beichen and Hongzhuang, your attitude isn't very appropriate." He knew that Di Zhuai's had always been this overbearing, but facing Beichen, he should at least control his temper a little. After hearing Di Xiaofeng's words, the originally ashen Zhuai's face turned even uglier. His heart was filled with unwillingness to accept this outcome. "I understand that his status isn't something I can compare to, but you can't keep spoiling him just because you feel like you owe him. You, with his strength, who would believe that he is the patriarch of our family? This is a joke. Since you're all allowing him to do as he pleases, then I won't say anything more. When we enter the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, we'll split up." With that, Di Zhuai's flung his sleeves and turned to leave. However, Di Beichen's voice rang out again. "Wait." Di Zhuai stopped in his tracks and looked at Di Beichen. His voice was cold and filled with anger. "What's the matter?" "Apologize to Hongzhuang," Di Beichen said coldly. Hearing this, Di Zhuai's was instantly stunned. A look of disbelief flashed across his eyes. "What did you say?" "I said apologize to Hongzhuang." Di Beichen raised his voice and emphasized every word. "Why should I?" Di Zhuai's was about to explode from anger. Chapter 46-58. Di Xiaofeng and Dai Heoan couldn't help but look at each other in shock after seeing Di Beichen's tough stance. They had never seen Di Beichen like this before. At this moment, his entire body was exuding the aura of a superior. That kind of undeniable strength made it impossible for anyone to resist. "Wow, Beichen is so handsome like this." Xiao Hei's eye sparkled. Beichen was simply too handsome when he was so domineering. Bailey Hongzhuang was also a little shocked, but she quickly understood. All along, Beichen had always been this domineering when it came to matters related to her. Thinking back to when Di Zhuai scolded him before, he didn't refute anything. Now that he was going to this extent for her, She was instantly touched. Di Zhai's also didn't expect Di Beichun to be so unyielding. According to the first time he saw Di Beichun, his temperament wasn't like this at all. Why did he completely change now? Di Zhai's was embarrassed. Zhai's, you've indeed gone overboard with your words. It's only right for you to apologize. Dai Haoan slowly said, while giving Di Zhai's a way out, and at the same time easing the atmosphere. This kind of atmosphere was simply too awkward. Zhai's. Di Xiaofeng also spoke up. Seeing that everyone was standing on Di Beichun's side, the veins on Di Zhai's temples throbbed. The anger in his eyes continued to rise. This was simply too despicable. However, in this situation, he really had no other choice but to apologize. Okay, I'll take this as my fault. Di Zhai's face was cold. Take it that I said the wrong thing. I also hope that you can really perform well. With that, Di Zhai's didn't want to stay any longer. He turned around and quickly left. Di Beichun was a little dissatisfied with Di Zhai's words. He was about to say something when Bailey Hongzhuang pulled him back. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly shook her head. She understood that Di Beichun wanted to stand up for her. However, this was already the limit of what Di Zhai's could do. If they continued to argue over this matter, it was inevitable that they would come to blows. Everyone was about to enter the immortal cloud secret realm together. It wasn't good to fight among themselves. Di Beichun gently looked at Bailey Hongzhuang before stopping. Wife, you go to mother's place first. As for the spiritual herbs you need, I'll get them for you later. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang slightly nodded her head. After Bailey Hongzhuang left, Di Haoan also left. Di Beichun looked at Di Xiaofeng. Dage, do you have something to say to me? Beichun, Di Zhai's, Di Zhai's. Di Xiaofeng smiled. But Zhai's has always been like this. Don't take it to heart. Di Beichun's deep eyes surged with a deep luster. I can ignore it, but I can't tolerate his attitude towards Hongzhuang. I understand that you're doing this for Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang will be very happy too. Di Xiaofeng lightly smiled. His younger brother was really good to his wife. Hongzhuang doesn't know anyone in the family. I'm the only one who supports her. If I allow others to slander her in front of me, then what position will she have in the family in the future? Di Beichun's voice was cold. He didn't want to use his status to bully others. However, he couldn't sit by and watch others speak rudely of Hongzhuang. Chapter 4659. After hearing Di Beichun's words, Di Xiaofeng's eyes lit up. Di Beichun, I didn't think you would think so much for Hongzhuang. You're so thoughtful. He didn't think about this before, but after hearing Di Beichun's words, it was indeed the case. Although everyone in the family knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was Di Beichun's wife, they respected her only because of this. If Di Beichun didn't express his attitude, it would be hard to avoid people looking down on Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang has done a lot for me. Di Beichun's gaze was deep and complicated. In fact, if it wasn't for him, Hongzhuang wouldn't have to care about Di Zhai's words and wouldn't have to bear all of this. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had received the recognition and love of her family, he understood that all of this was done for him. It was because of this that he didn't allow anyone to say anything bad about Hongzhuang. Di Xiaofeng nodded and sighed. Hongzhuang really didn't have it easy, but she's really powerful. That's right. Although Zhai's words weren't nice, this alchemy competition is indeed a very important occasion. You have to make sure that Hongzhuang has the ability of a 7th-tier alchemist, or else it will be troublesome. Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but remind him. He had the same thoughts as his father and didn't care if Bailey Hongzhuang could get a spot for the family, but at least the difference couldn't be too big. Big brother, don't worry, I won't say this kind of thing without thinking. Di Beichun said. He didn't emphasize how outstanding Hongzhuang's alchemy skills were, because he knew that facts spoke louder than words. At this moment, no amount of words could compare to Hongzhuang's performance. Master, I feel like everyone doesn't believe in your alchemy skills. They must be blind to have underestimated you. Xiao He followed Bailey Hongzhuang to Lin Yunqing's courtyard. She puffed up her cheeks, clearly still dissatisfied with this matter. It's normal that they don't believe me. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. not taking this matter to heart. Master, aren't you being a little too calm? Xiao Hei was a little confused. Why don't you explain it to them? With my age, I'm indeed not very convincing. It's normal for them to have such an attitude. Anyway, I've already gotten a spot. When the time comes, I'll just have to perform well. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and perfect face had a light smile like a spring breeze. In her mind, the image of Di Beichun standing up for her just now appeared. For her, she did not care about other people's attitudes. As long as Di Beichun stood firmly by her side, it was enough. Lin Wenlan and Yun Yishan left, but Lin Yi didn't leave with them. She planned to go to the venue of the alchemy competition with the Di family and meet with the Lin family at that time. In this regard, Lin Wenlan and others had already guessed Lin Yi's intention, so they didn't stop her. Just a few days after Lin Wenlan and others left, Bailey Hongzhuang and others were ready to set off. Xiaofeng, Beichun, Hongzhuang, you must be more careful this time. Lin Yunqing's eyes were full of worry and concern. Every time her children left, she couldn't help but worry. Mother, don't worry. We will be careful, Di Beichun said with a smile. Chapter 4660. Mother, don't worry. Even if you didn't tell me, I would take good care of them, Di Xiaofeng said with a smile. That's good. Mother, after I leave, you have to listen to Dr. Wu and take care of yourself, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Lin Yun smiled and nodded. I will. This time, you will be led by great elder. After you leave, you must be united. No matter what the result is, don't be discouraged, Di Yujue reminded. In fact, they didn't have any expectations for the alchemy competition, but it was still necessary to participate. If they could get a few more spots, it would be good. At least with a few more spots, the family would have more opportunities for their disciples to gain experience. Yes, family head. Di Lin Xian and Xiao Wanrong also came, so they couldn't help but remind them. After a while, everyone set off together. There's a certain distance from here to the location of the alchemy competition. Even if we take a flying magic tool, it will take half a month, so you have to be mentally prepared, Di Xiaofeng said to Di Beichun and Xiao Wanrong. Hearing this, the two of them nodded. This distance was within their expectations. When they first came from Rome and city to the Di family, it also took a lot of time. However, from this point, it could be seen that the upper realm was indeed much larger than the lower realm. One had to know that the flying magic tool was very fast. Even so, it still took half a month, so one could imagine the distance. This time, everyone sat on Great Elder's flying magic tool. There weren't many people going this time. Other than the 6 people participating in the competition, there were only 2 alchemists and Great Elder. The alchemy competition will be held in Waterqi City. Our Di family also has businesses in Waterqi City. After we go, we will contact them. Di Xiaofeng noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Wanrong's gazes and immediately explained. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. Previously, she also thought that the number of people going was too small. It turned out that the Di family already had people there. This time, we're going to Water Praying City to compete for the slots. After the competition for the slots is over, there will only be 3 months left before the opening of the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. At that time, we will wait for everyone to meet up in Water Praying City. After that, we will take the flying ship to the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm. Di Xiaofeng had an elegant smile on his face. Di Beichun had never participated in such an event, so they definitely didn't know about these things. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. The structure of the upper realm was indeed much larger. The duration of this event was also much longer than what they had experienced before. Wait until we reach Qishui City, then you'll see how grand it is. Yes, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. This time, she would definitely be able to see many geniuses and gain a better understanding of the higher realms. Second cousin-in-law, when we get to Qishui City, I'll take you around. Actually, there are a lot of fun things there. We don't have many opportunities to go out on weekdays. We must take advantage of this opportunity to have fun, Lin Yi said with an excited expression. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a faint smile. Okay, Big brother, will Miss Yin Yin go to the immortal cloud secret realm this time? Di Beichun asked quietly. Chapter 46-61. Listening to Di Beichun's question, Di Xiaofeng nodded with a complicated expression. Yin Yin should also go. Seeing this, Di Beichun also sighed secretly in his heart. Presumably, there would be some twists and turns at that time. Other things were easy to deal with, but this kind of thing was the most difficult. He was helpless. After knowing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask, Big brother, have you talked to Yi? Yi was so pure that she liked Di Xiaofeng without hesitation. She didn't think of other possibilities at all. If she knew that Di Xiaofeng actually liked someone else, she was really worried that Yi wouldn't be able to bear it. Di Xiaofeng sighed. I have already told her that I only treat her as a sister, but he didn't seem to take my words to heart. He thought that after he made this clear, Yi would understand, but he didn't expect that when they met again, Yi acted as if nothing had happened before. Bailey Hongzhuang fell into silence when she heard this. It seemed that Yi had already known all this in her heart, but she was just unwilling to give up. From a moment Di Xiaofeng told her she already understood, but she also knew that if that was the case, she couldn't continue to get along with Di Xiaofeng, so she could only pretend that what happened that day never happened. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt a little distressed for Lin Yi. No matter what, we have to treat Yi better, Bailey Hongzhuang said solemnly. The time on the flight magical weapon was undoubtedly boring. Almost everyone was cultivating on their own. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had been immersed in cultivation. Obtaining the quota was one thing. After obtaining the quota, going to the Immortal Cloud's secret realm was a bigger test. If they were not strong enough, let alone the harvest, they didn't even know if they could keep their lives. At the same time, Xiren and others had been staying in the Chaos Ring. After some discussion, everyone decided to enter the Immortal Cloud secret realm in this way. On the one hand, it could save the quota, and on the other hand, it might also have unexpected good effects. What's more, if Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun proposed to go to the Water Chishui City with them, it would probably make everyone a little embarrassed. After all, there were not so many quotas. Instead of that, it was better to be simple and straightforward. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. After the Great Elder reminded them that they were close to the Water Chishui City, everyone exited the cultivation state. Not long after that, everyone appeared in the Water Chishui City. As soon as they walked through the city gate, the bustling clamor spread to everyone's ears. Looking at the city in front of her, there was a trace of emotion in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. This city was much larger than Roman City. The road was wide enough to accommodate dozens of carriages moving side by side. Everything was grand and spectacular. However, there were also a lot of pedestrians here, and it was very lively. It's not too early for us to be here now. Many people from various powers have already arrived. In a few days, there will be even more people in Chishui City. It won't be easy to find a place to stay. Di Xiaofeng smiled. I'm afraid the people of our family haven't arrived yet, but they should be here soon. Lin Yi looked around and said thoughtfully, Let's go and settle down first. The Great Elder said, By the way, we can understand the current situation. Chapter 46-62. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the Di family's shop. Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that the Di family had also opened a pill shop here. The shop was connected to a courtyard, and the area wasn't small. As soon as they arrived, the shop's manager immediately came out and greeted them with a smile. First Elder, young master, young miss, you're here. I've already arranged your accommodations. If there's anything you need, just let me know. The First Elder nodded slightly and asked, Are all the forces here now? Is the Jun family here? Reporting to the First Elder, all the forces are here now. The Jun family arrived very early. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but they're staying in the inn across from us. That alchemist Qin is also with them. The First Elder's voice was cold, and his eyes were gloomy. He couldn't help but get angry when he thought about this. That's right. The manager nodded. The Jun family treats alchemist Qin as a guest of honor and treats him very well. Every time Alchemist Qin goes in and out, it's like the stars surrounding the moon. We can see everything clearly. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't look too good. The other side knew that they were deliberately provoking them by staying across from them. They were obviously trying to provoke them. This Jun family is getting more and more arrogant. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of anger. It's bad enough that they use such underhanded methods behind our backs. Now, they're even trying to make us unhappy. How hateful. That Alchemist Qin isn't a good person either. He went back on his words. How shameful. Di Zhuai's eyes were also full of disgust. The dignified Di family had been played like this. If this spread out, everyone would lose face. Have you contacted an 8th grade alchemist willing to help us participate in the competition? Even though the possibility of this happening was very small, the first elder couldn't help but ask. If they could contact an 8th grade alchemist at this time, then they could still get out of this situation. Otherwise, they would only be laughed at by the Jun family. Great Elder. Most of the Tier 8 alchemists have already been chosen by the various families. When we found out, it was already too late. We couldn't contact them at all. The steward sighed. He had already tried his best to contact them. However, once the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm opened, Grade 8 alchemists would be highly sought after by all the powers. No one would complain about having too many slots for the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm. Even if they couldn't use that many slots, they could still use them to exchange for more items. Therefore, it was impossible for them to find any slots at this moment. The Great Elder sighed. This result was within his expectations. He consoled, "Forget it. You've already done your best." Hearing this, the manager felt a little ashamed. "It's because I'm not capable enough." Just as they were talking, a group of people walked out of the inn opposite. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know the other party, but when the group of people appeared, the faces of the first elder and the others turned gloomy. Compared to the gloomy faces of the members of the D family, the people on the other side were beaming with pride. Then, a group of 10 people walked over. "Isn't this the first elder of the D family? You've brought the young people of your family here?" A middle-aged man was the first to speak. His face was filled with a proud smile. The first elder looked at him coldly, but didn't bother to reply. Chapter 46-63. However, if I remember correctly, the D family should only have 5 spots, right? Although all of you know your own limits, and know that you probably won't be able to obtain many spots, and only brought 6 disciples, I still have to remind all of you that with just 2 grade 7 alchemists, I'm afraid that all of you won't even be able to obtain an extra spot. As soon as he said this, everyone's faces turned ashen. The other party was mercilessly ridiculing them. "Jun Xianxiao, don't go too far." The first elder's face was cold, and his eyes were cold and sharp. This is the first elder of the Jun family, Jun Xianxiao. He usually doesn't get along with us. As for the man beside him, he's Alchemist Qin, who we invited before. The others are the outstanding disciples of the Jun family. Di Xiaofeng was worried that Di Beichen and Jun Xianxiao didn't understand the situation, so he introduced them to each other. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen hadn't met each other before, they had a general understanding of the situation. It seemed that the Di family and the Jun family had already reached the point where they were tit for tat. Jun Xianxiao chuckled. "I'm just telling the truth. How is that going too far? You know what the Jun family is doing behind the scenes, yet you still come here to make a fuss. Could it be that all mad dogs like to bark?" The first elder obviously didn't have a good temper, and his words weren't polite. "Who are you calling a mad dog?" Alchemist Qin was displeased. He was a dignified 8th grade alchemist, yet someone dared to talk to him like this. If it was before, the first elder would naturally be very polite to Alchemist Qin. However, after what had happened, he was full of disgust for Alchemist Qin. "If you're not a mad dog, why are you barking in someone else's territory?" Di Xiaofeng said coldly. Jun Xianxiao looked at Di Xiaofeng. "You're just a junior. How dare you interrupt? The Di family is really getting more and more unruly. You don't need to worry about that." The first elder's face was cold. "You're not welcome here. Di Yuanshu, is this how you treat me?" Medicine Master Qin's face had long since turned cold. Medicine Master Qin, your friendship with the D family has already been severed when you joined the Jun family. There's no need for you to put on such an act in front of us. It's useless to us. The D family's medicine master, D Yunhe, also spoke out. A mere 7th grade alchemist dares to be so arrogant. Alchemist Qin coldly snorted. With your strength, participating in this alchemy competition is nothing more than a foil. At least it's better than someone like you who goes back on your words. Another alchemist, Di Hongyun, sneered. Alchemist Qin's face was ashen. You, Medicine Master Qin, there's no need to pay attention to them. They're just running their mouths. Jun Xianxiao quickly calmed down. The dignified D family can only get 5 spots. Everyone will laugh at them when the time comes. Why should we be angry with them? Let's just watch them make a fool of themselves. Hearing this, Medicine Master Qin nodded. That's right. At the same time, the young people of the Jun family were also full of pride. They looked at the D family with mockery and disdain. This time, they would completely crush the D family. Men, chase these mad dogs out, the first elder said coldly. Seeing this, Jun Xianxiao chuckled. Let's go. Let's see how long they can last. Chapter 46-64. Although their response was very tough, and the Jun family's arrogance did not gain any benefits, they knew very well that this tough attitude would not last long. If their performance in the alchemy competition this time was too bad, they would inevitably lose face. In fact, they would not be able to leave quietly even if they wanted to. The Jun family would definitely think of ways to embarrass them in front of everyone. Thinking of this, everyone felt inexplicably annoyed. This Jun family's people are too arrogant. Looking at that face, I really want to ruthlessly stomp on his face. Dija's eyes could not suppress the anger in his heart. As a member of the D family, he had never been humiliated like this before. The Jun family and we are already enemies. This situation is very normal. Everyone, do not let this affect your hearts. The competition between families is not just one thing. This time, we suffered a loss, but this will not happen again in the future. Listening to the great elder's words, everyone nodded. This time, they could only suffer this hidden loss. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. The other side was so arrogant. If they really did not perform as well as the other side, who knew how proud the other side would be? They would not give the other side such a chance. They would not take this loss. The steward had already arranged everyone's accommodations. After settling down, everyone was free to move around. However, the great elders still warned them not to go out unless absolutely necessary. The Jun family must be thinking of ways to make trouble for them. Once they went out, they would be easily targeted. Regarding this, everyone understood that if they were targeted, it was very likely that the other side would have something to use against them. Therefore, everyone decided to stay in the room and cultivate peacefully. The other side undoubtedly wanted to show off in front of them, so they might as well not give the other side a chance to show off. In fact, just as the great elder had predicted, the Jun family's disciples wanted to find a chance to humiliate the D family's cultivators. However, after wandering around, they found that the D family had no intention of coming out. This caused their plan to go down the drain, which made them feel indescribably uncomfortable. Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun were the most nervous people in the D family. Although the family had already prepared themselves for failure, as alchemists, they couldn't win glory for the family. This was an indescribable grievance. The two of us have already advanced to Tier 7 alchemist for a long time, but we still can't touch the threshold of Tier 8 alchemist. If we can't get a spot for the clan this time, we'll really lose face for the clan. Di Yunhe's expression was heavy. He felt an indescribable grievance in his heart. He hated himself for being useless. If he could advance to a grade 8 alchemist, he would not have to endure such humiliation today. Sigh, our talents are indeed limited. Di Hongyun was also depressed. Back then, Alchemist Qin and I were both Tier 7 alchemists. Now that he has reached Tier 8, we are still Tier 7 alchemists. No wonder he is so arrogant. Di Yunhe slammed his fist on the table, and his face was filled with anger. I don't know why, but I just can't refine an 8th grade pill. I've caused a junior to be humiliated. It's really unbearable. No, let's try again. As long as the alchemy competition hasn't started, we still have a chance, Di Hingyun said. Chapter 4665. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun both entered the Chaos Ring. Seeing their arrival, when Xiren and the others came to greet them. You've already arrived at Qishui City? Di Beichun nodded. That's right. Haha. When the alchemy competition starts, you have to find a chance to let us out. We don't want to miss such a lively occasion. When Xiren's face was full of smiles. Although the number of outstanding alchemists in the upper realm was astonishing, they believed that Bailey Hongzhuang would still be able to stand out here. Of course, Di Beichun replied. Originally, I wanted to find an inn for you to move around freely. But now, the situation is limited, so we can only continue to stay here. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed slightly. What happened? Mo Yunjue asked in a deep voice. After Di Beichun explained what happened, everyone understood the specific situation. Hongzhuang, are you now an 8th-tier alchemist? Mo Yunjue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with concern. As far as the current situation was concerned, only when Bailey Hongzhuang became an 8th-grade alchemist could she change the situation. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded. I've already successfully refined an 8th-tier pill a few days ago. When these words came out, everyone's heart was in awe. Hongzhuang, your ability is really not a bluff. Shangguan Yingying gave her a thumbs up. Since that's the case, this alchemy competition shouldn't be any weaker than theirs. Although Bailey Hongzhuang had just advanced to the 8th tier, Shangguan Yingying was full of confidence in her. Because from the past until now, Bailey Hongzhuang had never failed in this kind of thing. That alchemist Qin is also an 8th-tier alchemist, and he's been advancing for a longer time than me. It won't be easy for me to defeat him. Her beautiful black and white eyes rippled with a bright and lively luster. After all, the two of them were at the same level. Even if she won, it would be difficult for her to be much stronger. What happened today made her very unhappy. She had completely integrated into the D family. She couldn't tolerate the other party's provocation of the D family. Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang thoughtfully. Wife, do you have other plans? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I heard that the 2 alchemists in the family have been promoted to the 7th tier for a long time. If they can be promoted to the 8th tier at this juncture, then we will have all the advantages. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ao Lingxiao and the others widened their eyes. If that was really the case, then it wouldn't be an advantage at all, but a complete suppression. It can't be. Hongzhuang, you're so abnormal. You can actually do this? When Xiren couldn't help but cry out. This ability was really scary. Not only Xiren, but Di Beichun also revealed a look of astonishment. It wasn't easy to guide people to advance. Noticing everyone's incredulous gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang explained, I do have this plan, but I can only try my best. I can't be sure if I can achieve this effect. She had the Chaos Ring. The reason why her alchemy skills could advance so quickly was inseparable from the Chaos Ring. The Chaos Ring had the most detailed guidance. She believed that the guidance of others couldn't compare to the Chaos Ring. Chapter 4666. If there really was a problem, then she could tell them the alchemy method in the Chaos Ring. Maybe it could help them level up. Although this idea sounded like a fantasy, it was really possible. Hearing this, everyone nodded. No matter what, it's good to try. After exiting the Chaos Ring, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun went to the 2 alchemists' residence. When Di Yunhe and Di Yunhe opened the door and saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they were confused. Second young master, what are you doing here? Di Beichun said slowly, 7th elder, 8th elder, Hongzhuang and I are here to talk about alchemy. Hearing this, Di Yunhe and Di Yunhe understood. They smiled and said, "Second young mistress, did you encounter any problems during alchemy? Tell us. If we can help you, we will tell you." When they knew Bailey Hongzhuang was going to participate in the alchemy competition, they thought it was ridiculous. But after thinking about it carefully, since the leader agreed, he must want Bailey Hongzhuang to come and broaden her horizons. Broadening her horizons would be good for improving her alchemy skills. In fact, Bailey Hongzhuang had become a pill master at such a young age, and they were very appreciative of her. After hearing Di Yunhe's words, Di Beichun was somewhat helpless. He knew that the two elders had good intentions, but they didn't come here to solve his own doubts, but to solve their own problems. To be honest, we want to ask you what problems you encountered when you tried to make the 8th Realm elixir. Maybe Hongzhuang can help you. Hearing this, Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun were both stunned. Then, a trace of anger appeared on their faces. She was so young, yet she wanted to teach them alchemy. She was too arrogant. Second young master, you are still very young. I understand that it is inevitable for you to be arrogant, but excessive arrogance is not a good thing. Di Yunhe suppressed his anger and reminded them. Di Beichun was also somewhat helpless. He also understood that such words would inevitably cause the other party to be dissatisfied, but what he said was also the truth. Actually, Hongzhuang has already broken through to become an 8th grade alchemist, Di Beichun said. A tier 8 alchemist. Di Hongyun chuckled. He was about to get angry, but when he came to his senses, he was stunned. Second madam, have you really become an 8th level alchemist? Two pairs of doubtful eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. It was too hard to believe. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes, this is the pill I just refined. Before coming here, Bailey Hongzhuang had already predicted this situation, so she had refined a cauldron of pills in her chaos ring. She knew that if she didn't show evidence, the other party wouldn't believe her. Taking the white porcelain bottle from Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun took a look. As alchemists, they naturally could tell that this pill was just refined not long ago. The family didn't invite an 8th level alchemist, so this pill couldn't have been refined by someone else. Therefore, this was the only explanation. Is this really refined by second madam? Di Yunhe was dumbfounded. If this was true, how terrifying was second madam's talent in alchemy? Chapter 46-67. Seeing how serious Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang were, Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun looked at each other. Although it was hard to believe, they were serious. Obviously, they would not joke with them at such an important moment. Second young master, second young madam, please come in. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun let out a sigh of relief. At least the two elders began to believe them. Second young madam, Di Yunhe opened his mouth. Thinking that he had to ask for advice from such a young junior, he did not know what to say. If the other party was an elder, he would definitely ask his doubts immediately and listen attentively. However, in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, it was really difficult to do so. Noticing the expressions of Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that they were embarrassed at the moment. She immediately said, "Elders, I am now an 8th level alchemist. I have some experience in refining 8th level elixirs. Why don't we exchange some ideas? Maybe it will enlighten you. Under the current situation, if you can advance to 8th level, it will be very beneficial for the family." Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun felt less embarrassed. Second young madam, you have already helped the family a lot by advancing to 8th level alchemist. Otherwise, with our skills, this alchemy competition is bound to bring shame to the family. Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun smiled. Whether they could advance or not, at least the news of Bailey Hongzhuang's advancement was great news to them. This solved the problem that they were most worried about. Even if they had just advanced to 8th level, as long as they could refine 8th level elixirs, they would be able to get a ranking. Seeing the two elders' friendly attitude, Bailey Hongzhuang was very happy. If it were ordinary people, her words would have provoked the other party's anger. In comparison, the two elders were very nice. Hong Zhuang's advancement to 8th level alchemist can indeed alleviate the family's predicament. However, the Jun family is too arrogant. If the two elders can also advance, we will definitely be able to take them down a notch. What do you think? Bewitching's handsome face was cold and domineering. His voice was firm and full of vigor. It was not their style not to fight back. Hearing Bewitching's ambitious words, Di Yunhe and Di Hingyun looked at each other. They suddenly felt that they might have underestimated this second young master before. Although he was from the underworld, his domineering attitude and temperament, he was from the Di family. Second young master is right. If we can turn this time, the family will be Proud's family. Di Hingyun's eyes were bright and resplendent. This time, everyone had been holding a breath in their hearts. They had long wanted to vent their anger. Because everyone had the same goal, the two elders no longer had the same idea after learning about Bailey Hongzhuang's abilities. Instead, they told her all the problems they had encountered. In fact, they did not have much hope because they had asked other 8th level alchemists before, but none of them could break through the shackles. However, after Bailey Hongzhuang answered their questions one by one, their thoughts completely changed. Chapter 46-68. After Bailey Hongzhuang answered one question after another, Di Yunhe and Di Hingyun no longer looked down on her as before. An indescribable shock and joy spread in their hearts. These were the questions that had always been giving them headaches. However, Bailey Hongzhuang explained them in detail. Originally, they only thought that they might be able to hear some methods of refining level 8 elixirs from Bailey Hongzhuang in the situation when she broke through. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was not talking about these at all. She was actually teaching them all kinds of things that they needed to pay attention to when refining elixirs. If it were someone else who told them these things, they would definitely be too lazy to pay attention. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's method seemed to have opened a new door for them, causing their eyes to light up. A strange feeling spread in their hearts. The things that they couldn't figure out before seemed to have loosened up. The inspiration and experience made them extremely surprised. Although Bewitching didn't know much about alchemy, after noticing the constantly changing expressions of the two elders, he understood that what his wife said was very useful. He saw with his own eyes that the two elders changed from indifference to astonishment, to shock, and now to admiration. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang expected, the two elders' biggest problem was the method of refining elixirs. Although they were all alchemists, each alchemist's method of refining elixirs was slightly different. Moreover, there were all kinds of tricks when refining elixirs. However, most of the time, no one was willing to share these tricks with others. Therefore, if they wanted to solve these problems, they had to figure out themselves. In comparison, her method of refining elixirs could be said to be a unique one. It was a combination of her previous refining methods and the methods in the Chaos Ring. However, she didn't find the two elders' questions difficult to answer. On the contrary, she felt that it was very easy. She was even a little surprised that the two alchemists were troubled by such questions. If Di Yunhe and Di Yunhe knew what Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking when answering these questions, they would definitely break down. These questions were very difficult for everyone to answer. For this question, they had consulted many people, but no one had a definite answer. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually easily resolve these problems the moment she opened her mouth? They simply couldn't understand. Could it be that the lower realms pharmacists were already so powerful? He actually had such a profound understanding of alchemy. If Bailey Hongzhuang were to speak of these views, it would probably shock a lot of people. Thinking back to Bailey Hongzhuang's equally outstanding medical skills, they even felt that their previous views were all wrong. Not only was the lower realms standard not inferior to the upper realms, on the contrary, it was even more formidable than the upper realms. Elders, do you have any other questions? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the two elders after answering their questions. Di Yunhe and Di Hingyun looked at each other. In their eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang was extremely popular. They took advantage of this opportunity to ask the questions that they didn't understand before. The answers she gave also made them very excited. Although some of the answers needed to be tested personally to know whether they were correct or not, they had an intuition that everything Bailey Hongzhuang said was correct. There was no flaw at all. Chapter 46-69. They did have a lot of questions, but they had already asked all the questions they could think of, so they couldn't think of anything else to ask. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Then the two elders will study it first. We'll leave first. She had said a lot of things, so Di Yunhe and Di Hongzhuang probably needed time to sort it out. Thank you so much for your explanation today. Di Yunhe no longer regarded himself as a senior in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. On the contrary, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was a complete alchemy master. To have such strength at such a young age, her future achievements would definitely be very terrifying. You're too polite. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She could also feel the change in attitude of the elders. Just as Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang were walking out of the door, Di Hongyan couldn't help but ask, "Second madam, if we encounter any problems while refining pills, can we ask for your help?" When Di Zhai's passed by, he heard what Di Hongyun said to Bailey Hongzhuang and almost fell down. His face was full of shock, thinking that he must have heard wrong. "No problem," Bailey Hongzhuang quickly replied. "If the two elders have any questions, you can come to me directly." "Thank you, second madam." Di Hongyun breathed a sigh of relief and couldn't hide the joy on his face. Although they only chatted for a short while today, he learned more than all the things he had learned over the years. After leaving, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun went straight back to their rooms. "Wife, your performance today really made the two elders see you in a new light." Di Beichun's face was full of admiration. The change in attitude of the two elders was really too big. On the way here, the two elders didn't talk to Bailey Hongzhuang at all about alchemy, so he knew that the two elders didn't take Hongzhuang seriously. But now, they obviously respected Bailey Hongzhuang as a master. Just now, the two elders listened to her seriously like students, which left a deep impression on him. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "I hope that what I said will be helpful to them." In fact, she felt that according to what she explained before, if the two elders could understand everything, it wouldn't be difficult for them to become level 8 alchemists. "I will." After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Zhuai's leave, Di Zhuai's immediately went to the two elders' room. "Seventh elder, eighth elder, did I hear you wrong? You asked Bailey Hongzhuang a question?" Seeing Di Zhuai suddenly appear, Di Yunhe and Di Zhuai's were a little surprised, but they didn't find it strange. "That's right, second madam's attainment in alchemy is amazing. It's our good fortune to be able to ask her a question," Di Hongyun said. This was his real thought, and he didn't feel that saying it would be embarrassing. On the contrary, he was really glad that he could be taught by Bailey Hongzhuang today. He even felt that he might be able to become a level 8 alchemist. If he could really do it, then Bailey Hongzhuang would be his great benefactor. Hearing this, Di Zhuai's was stunned, as if he was struck by lightning. Until the two elders closed the door, he still stood there in a daze, his face full of disbelief. Chapter 46-70. Recalling the admiring look of the eighth elder, his lips couldn't help but twitch. How is this possible? However, the two elders didn't want to explain to him at all. They had just absorbed so much content. At this moment, they just wanted to digest it properly. Inside the house, Di Yunhe and Di Hongyan looked at each other. Their faces were full of emotions. "I didn't expect second young madam's alchemy skills to be so outstanding. We underestimated her before. Yes, now that I think about it, our previous attitude was really inappropriate." Di Hongyan sighed. He only felt that his previous attitude was not good enough. Di Yunhe nodded slightly. "We did not do well before, but we won't do it again in the future. These questions mentioned by second young madam are completely different from the ambiguous answers we got when we asked before. I don't know if the other party hid something from us when we asked, so they gave such ambiguous answers. They must have hidden something." In contrast, Second young madam really doesn't hide anything from us. I am convinced by this point alone. Di Hingyun looked serious. In fact, most people were not willing to tell their own tricks. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not hide anything from them at all. On the contrary, she explained it in detail. You are right. If anyone says something bad about second young madam in the future, we can't indulge them. Di Yunhe also nodded. They liked this second young madam very much. Immediately afterward, the two no longer hesitated and immediately began to refine elixir. In the next 2 days, Di Yunhe came to Bailey Hongzhuang once. Bailey Hongzhuang watched the two refine a furnace of elixir and gave her own opinion. The two suddenly gained something and began to retreat again. On this day, the Lin family also arrived in Qishui City. Bailey Hongzhuang and others appeared on the street with Lin Yi. I have been staying in the house for the past few days. As soon as I came out, I found that there are more people in Qishui City. Lin Yi looked around curiously. At such a lively time, there were many interesting things. It was a pity that she couldn't come out. Indeed, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Such a wide street was no longer empty. On the contrary, there were a lot of pedestrians. Second cousin-in-law, the alchemy competition will begin in 3 days. I think you don't have to worry too much. In fact, even if we don't get a place this time, with the D family's background, it won't affect us much. I understand. It's rare for us to come out, so we're not in a hurry to go back. Let's look around first. The great elder's behavior today is a little strange. Didn't he say that he didn't want us to come out? I don't know why, but they let us out today. Lin Yi looked puzzled. This was really not in line with the great elder's style. However, no matter how much she thought about it, she still couldn't figure out what the problem was. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Why are you thinking so much? Since you want to go shopping, let's look around. Great. Lin Yi clapped her hands. Ordinary things are not attractive to us. Why don't we go to the underground market? Underground market? Chapter 4671. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart suddenly became interested. There must be a lot of treasures in the market of the upper realm. What's more, many forces had gathered in Qishui City now. There must be more treasures to be exchanged. Let's go and take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang also agreed, Lin Yi was even happier. She held Bailey Hongzhuang's arm and walked to the underground market together. It's strange. I don't know where Big Cousin and the others went today. They didn't bring us along. Lin Yi curled her lips. She thought that she could finally come out today. She was the happiest to come out with Big Cousin, but she didn't expect that Big Cousin and Second Cousin had gone out first, leaving only her and Second Cousin-in-law. They have their own activities. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Today, Bewitching and the others went out with a mission, but she didn't know if they could succeed. The two of them walked to the front of the building. This building looked like a simple loft, and there was nothing special about it. After paying 10 mid-grade spirit stones, the two of them walked in. After a few steps, they saw a staircase extending to the underground. As soon as they walked down, they felt the lively noise. Looking at the underground market that was as bright as day, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. If she didn't remember clearly that she was underground, she would think that everything here was a street. The scale of this underground market was huge. She couldn't see the end at a glance. Hundreds of stalls gathered together, which was extremely spectacular. There were more pedestrians. People gathered in front of almost every stall. After a while, many things were sold. Master, it's so lively here. Xiaohei's eyes flashed with interest. She liked lively places the most. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a faint smile. It seems that there should be a lot of good things here. The scale this time is really unprecedented. Lin Yi looked excited. Second cousin-in-law, let's go and take a look. Immediately afterward, Lin Yi pulled Bailey Hongzhuang and rushed into the crowd. Seeing that, Bailey Hongzhuang also smiled helplessly. He really had the mentality of a child. With just a glance, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that there were many precious treasures in this stall. If she had wanted to find such a treasure in the past, she would have had to rack her brains. However, there were so many of them here. It had to be said that the resources in the upper realm were much more abundant than those in the lower realm. However, after seeing the D family's vault of resources, she was no longer amazed by these things. After visiting more than a dozen stalls in a row, Linny also saw something that she was satisfied with. She immediately bought it. Bailey Hongzhuang also saw some good things, but she didn't buy them. Although these things were not bad, they were not necessarily needed. Moreover, she didn't have many spirit stones on her. Previously, when she stayed in the family clan, she had been cultivating in the cultivation room and had used up a lot of spirit stones. Therefore, she did not think of collecting spirit stones from the family clan. On the contrary, she collected a lot of spirit herbs. What's more, the price of the things in the upper realm was extremely shocking. She didn't know if she could buy something good with all her spirit stones. If she really came across something that she really needed, she could consider bartering for it. Chapter 4672. Looking in the direction pointed by Lin Yi, sure enough, many people surrounded a stall. There was only one possibility for this situation. That was, an excellent treasure appeared in this stall. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Lin Yi approached, the discussions of the surrounding people also entered their ears. There's actually a radiant vine here. That's an extremely rare thing. Yes, the value of the light vine is extremely high. It is also something that people compete for at the auction. I didn't expect it to appear in this underground market. However, the personality of this stall owner is also strange. He doesn't collect spirit stones, but barters. Until now, no one has been able to come up with something that satisfies him. In my opinion, there will be many people from different forces coming in a while. We can see such a treasure, but we can't fight for it. When hearing the words light vine, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly lit up. She didn't expect to see such a good treasure here. Although light vine had the word light in its name, it could be used by cultivators of any attribute. It could improve the attribute power of the cultivator, thereby increasing their perception. However, it was the most helpful to the light attribute cultivator. Increasing the attribute power itself was already very attractive to everyone, not to mention that it could also make the cultivator have a perception. Once the understanding of the attribute power was improved, the combat power would increase rapidly. Generally speaking, such a treasure was definitely at a sky-high price. Most of them would appear in auctions. They rarely appeared in places like the trading market. The most special thing was that this stall owner didn't want spirit stones, but wanted to exchange for what he needed. I didn't expect it to be a treasure like the light vine. Linny's eyes also lit up when she heard about this treasure, but then she sighed again. If you want to get such a treasure, it will cost a sky-high price. With my little wealth, it is not enough at all. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Indeed, to get such a treasure, one had to pay a high price. Since we are here, we are not in a hurry to leave. Let's take a look first. Lin Yi said, you have a light attribute. In fact, this light vine will be of great help to you. The light vine was the most helpful to the light attribute cultivator. It could even have a certain purification effect. If Bailey Hongzhuang could get her hands on it, her light attribute would definitely improve even more. In fact, Bailey Hongzhuang was also a little envious. Such a treasure would be of great help to her. However, she wanted to see what the stall owner needed. At the same time, she was also thinking about what she could offer in exchange. Please make way. Linny tried hard to walk into the crowd. After all, standing on the periphery, they could hardly see anything. The cultivator who was pushed away by Lin Yi was extremely annoyed. He was about to get angry, but he found that the other party was two beauties, especially the woman behind. She was breathtakingly beautiful. All of a sudden, all of his annoyance disappeared, and he quietly gave up his seat. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled apologetically to the other party, then followed Lin Yi to squeeze in. The man watched in a daze as Bailey Hongzhuang entered the crowd, his mind still in a daze. Soon, the two of them squeezed to the front of the stall, and only then did they see the situation of the stall clearly. Chapter 4673. Oh my God, there's not only light vine here, but also seven snake cloud fruit, flame, fish grass. Linny didn't know what to say. These treasures were rare. She didn't expect them to be gathered together in an underground market stall. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, it would have been hard to believe. Linny was at a loss for words. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate face was also surprised, but she was more curious about the stall owner. The stall owner was an old man with a white beard on his chin. Even though so many people surrounded his stall at this moment, he still looked indifferent. He even held a book in his hand, but she didn't know whether he was reading it or not. Stall owner, can I exchange a bottle of 8th grade elixir for this light vine? At this moment, a man asked aloud. Hearing this, the stall owner raised his eyes lazily and said, "What 8th grade elixir?" 8th grade cloud breakthrough pill. Following the man's words, all the cultivators present cried out in surprise. 8th grade cloud breakthrough pill could help cultivators break through from the starlight realm to the nebula realm. Above the starlight realm, it was very difficult to break through a major level each time. However, with the help of elixir, the possibility of breaking through would be greatly increased. Therefore, the value of this kind of elixir could be said to be rising. It was the favorite of cultivators. The man actually offered a bottle of cloud breakthrough pill. How could people not be envious? There are 10 cloud breakthrough pills in a whole bottle. The value is extremely high. Yes, there are not many 8th grade alchemists. What's more, the refining of this cloud breakthrough pill is not easy, so the price is extremely high. I am afraid that this light vine will be traded away. Everyone sighed. If it were them, such a deal would be worth it. The man smiled. He actually gritted his teeth before deciding to take out this bottle of cloud breakthrough pill, because he already had the cloud breakthrough pill, and this light vine was more useful to him. However, just when everyone thought that this deal would be successful, the stall owner waved his hand, not trading. As soon as these words came out, the man couldn't help but be stunned. He said after a long while, "Why? What why? If I don't want to exchange, then I won't exchange," the stall owner said lazily. Everyone was speechless when they saw the stall owner ignoring the cloud-breaking pill. He didn't even care about such a treasure. However, thinking about how the stall owner had so many treasures, everyone understood that the stall owner must be someone who was used to seeing treasures. That was why he was so calm. After being rejected just like that, the man was a little depressed. However, looking at the bright vine, he was still unwilling to give up. He could not help but ask, "What can I offer in exchange for this bright vine?" "I haven't decided yet," the stall owner answered matter-of-factly. Hearing this, everyone was speechless. If you don't know what to exchange for, then how am I supposed to know what to exchange for? The man suppressed the anger in his heart and asked, "If I knew what to exchange, wouldn't I just write it down? Why would I waste my time waiting for all of you to ask me questions one by one?" The stall owner rolled his eyes with an expression that said, "Are you an idiot?" Faced with the stall owner's expression, the man felt like crying, but had no tears. "Am I an idiot? You're the weirdo, all right?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the stall owner's expression and couldn't help but laugh. This stall owner's personality was really too interesting. Chapter 4674. Not only Lin Yi, but many cultivators around couldn't help but chuckle. However, it was not directed at this man. They also felt that the stall owner's explanation was really frustrating. The charm of the light vine was still great. In a short time, many people came to inquire. The proposed conditions were not bad, but they were all rejected by the stall owner. Bailey Hongzhuang stood aside, but did not speak. Her gaze fell on the light vine. She found a problem. There were 5 small words written in front of this light vine, 100-year light vine. However, according to her judgment, this was not a 100-year light vine, but a millennium light vine. On the surface, there wasn't much difference between a 100-year illuminating vine and a 1,000-year illuminating vine. Many people would confuse them. However, she had read in a book that the surface of a 1,000-year illuminating vine had a faint layer of purple. This purple was very light. If people who didn't know about it carefully looked at it, they would not notice it at all. In fact, there were only a few people who could recognize it among so many people present. The value of the Millennium Illuminating Vine was much higher than the 100-Year Illuminating Vine. If the name of the Millennium Illuminating Vine were to spread, it was likely that it would attract many more people. Did the old man in front of me really not recognize it? Bailey Hongzhuang thought in her heart. If I exchange a Millennium Light Vine with the price of a 100-Year Light Vine, I will make a lot of money. However, this is a bit too much of an advantage. After thinking about it, she still felt that she shouldn't do this. Although it would save a lot of money, since the other party could take out so many heaven and earth treasures, the force behind him must not be simple. If the other party knew about it afterward and came to find trouble, it would be really troublesome. What's more, even if the other party didn't know about it, he would feel embarrassed if he met her again in the future. This person has so many treasures. There might be a time to exchange in the future. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang also made a decision. Second cousin-in-law, this stall owner's vision is so high that he doesn't fancy so many treasures. I'm afraid there is not much possibility for us to exchange. Lin Yi sighed. She couldn't think of a way to meet such a high requirement. I want to try. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. She had been observing this old man for a long time. As a doctor and an alchemist, she found that he seemed to have some hidden illness. Since the other party didn't know what he wanted in exchange, if he could take out something that could cure the other party's hidden illness, perhaps the other party would agree. Not only that, if her judgment wasn't wrong, the other party should be an alchemist, and his grade wasn't low either. This was because she noticed that when many cultivators took out pills to exchange, this old man's expression was extremely calm, and there was not even the slightest ripple in his eyes. Logically speaking, the value of these medicinal pills was not cheap. No matter what, he should be somewhat moved. However, the other party's heart was as calm as still water. There was only one possibility. He could refine them himself, so he did not put these medicinal pills in his eyes at all. What could make an alchemist's eyes light up? That was the pill formula. Bailey Hongzhuang was sure that as long as she took out a valuable pill formula, the other party would definitely agree to trade with her. She didn't have any spirit stones, but she did have this lost pill formula. This level of pill formula was a priceless treasure in the eyes of alchemists. Chapter 4675. Xiao family's eldest miss is here. She must have heard that there is a light vine here, so she came. It seems that the charm of this light vine is really great. It has attracted the next generation of light saint. I think that even if she comes, she may not be able to exchange for this light vine. After all, the character of this stall owner is very peculiar. In the midst of everyone's discussion, a yellow figure slowly appeared in front of the stall. After Bailey Hongzhuang heard that Xiao Sou appeared, her gaze also changed a bit. In the past, she didn't have any feelings for Xiao Sou. Her only impression was that the other party would be the next generation of Light Saint. But now, after knowing that Bewitching and Xiao Sou once had an engagement, this feeling became completely different. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiao Sou to suddenly come here. She subconsciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang on the side. There was a trace of worry deep in her eyes. After getting along with her for this period of time, she liked her second cousin-in-law very much. Although her identity and status couldn't be compared with Xiao Sou, she felt that her cultivation and ability were not worse than Xiao Sou. The most important thing was that her second cousin-in-law was much easier to get along with. She didn't have Xiao Sou's aloof appearance at all. However, she knew that Xiao Sou was interested in her second cousin. Now that they met here, her second cousin-in-law was likely to suffer a loss. Thinking of this, Lin Yi subconsciously pulled Bailey Hongzhuang and wanted to leave. Second cousin-in-law, we have seen enough. Why don't we go first? Lin Yi said with a smile. However, when she said this, she found that Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze had already looked behind her. She followed Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze and found that she and Xiao Sou had already begun to exchange gazes. Lin Yi's heart suddenly thumped. It seems that this trouble is unavoidable. As soon as Xiao Sou entered the crowd, she noticed a woman in a white dress. The simple and elegant white dress on her body revealed a unique aura. Her exquisite facial features seemed to have been meticulously carved by the heavens. Every inch of her face was exquisite to the extreme, making it impossible for people to nitpick. She had a pair of bright eyes that were overflowing with light. Her lips were vermilion, and her skin was white like the crescent moon. There was a faint smile on her lips that was impossible to ignore. She seemed to be the most eye-catching person here, and as long as someone came close, they would not be able to ignore her existence. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao Sou was shocked. Even though she was a woman, she had to admit that this woman was extremely beautiful. Just as he was guessing which force this woman came from, he noticed Lin Yi beside her. Most importantly, she heard Lin Yi address this woman as second cousin-in-law. She clearly remembered that Lin Yi called Bewitching as second cousin before, so the identity of this second cousin-in-law was obvious. Bewitching's wife. It was because of this woman in front of her that Bewitching did not hesitate to refuse the marriage contract with her. Previously, she wondered why Bewitching would make such a choice when the other party was just a woman from the underworld. However, now she suddenly understood. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.